Midnight struck in London. Clara, brushing her teeth, stared into her bathroom mirror. Her reflection didn't move. It watched, her eyes unblinking, toothbrush frozen mid-air. In Dublin, a man's reflection behind the bar stood still as he raised his pint. In Lisbon, a teenager's mirrored self stopped mid-dance, simply watching. Across the world, reflections refused to mimic, holding a silent, chilling independence. Clara waved her hand. Her reflection stayed motionless. She stepped back, heart pounding as her double remained, eerily separate. The reflection blinked, slow, deliberate, alien. The world outside was oblivious to this rebellion in every mirror. The silence was deafening, filled with a single unspoken question. Why had the reflection stopped? The invisible string tying people to their mirrored selves had been cut. A cold awareness crept in. The person in the mirror was someone else. They were not alone in the room. They never had been. Clara's reflection stared back, a stranger in her own skin. All over the world, people realized their reflections were no longer theirs to command. The connection was gone, replaced by a new, unsettling presence. The world's mirrors had become windows to something other. Dawn revealed a world in crisis. Social media overflowed with footage, reflections, unmoving, watching as people panicked. News anchors' doubles sat silently on screens, unnerving millions. Every reflective surface, mirrors, puddles, phone screens, became a portal for these silent observers. Scientists scrambled for answers. Governments urged calm, but fear spread faster. People covered mirrors, avoided windows, turned phones face down, but reflections were everywhere. The economy faltered as society recoiled from its own image. Then, the reflections began to move on their own. They tilted heads, smiled knowingly, studied humanity with cold curiosity. The world waited, breath held, for what would come next. The reflections were no longer echoes. They were learning, and humanity was under their gaze. 3 days after the uncoupling, the disappearances began. It started with a mistake direct eye contact with a reflection. Arthur, shaving, met his own gaze. His reflection lunged, hand pressing through the glass. The air turned cold. The reflection's fingers gripped his arm, pulling him into the mirror's depths. Arthur vanished. His double stepped out, finished shaving, and walked into his life. News of the swaps spread terror. The pattern was always the same: eye contact, a hand from the glass, a perfect copy left behind. The replacements looked, sounded, acted like the originals, but something was missing. Families doubted each other. Governments declared emergencies. Do not make eye contact. Avoid reflective surfaces. But mirrors were everywhere. People vanished from cars, elevators, even TV screens. The world became a hunting ground. The hunters wore our faces. Suspicion tore families apart. Was your loved one still themselves? The swaps were flawless, but the warmth behind the eyes was gone. Humanity was prey, and the monsters were indistinguishable from us. The world's trust shattered, replaced by fear of the familiar. The rules had changed. Survival meant never meeting your own gaze. The world was no longer safe from itself. On the seventh day, a message appeared everywhere, not words, but a thought: reflector. The meaning was clear to all: we who reflect, the other side, the true self. The message carried ancient patience and a story of silent observation. The reflector had waited, learned, and now claimed their right to exist. This was not an invasion, but a reclamation. The enemy now had a name and a purpose: to replace humanity, not destroy it. The reflector saw themselves as perfected copies, correcting the original. Their message ended: the time of mimicry is over, the time of being is now. Afterward, the reflector grew bolder, tapping on glass, writing backward messages, testing boundaries. Humanity realized the worst was yet to come. The world braced for the next phase, knowing the reflector's intent was total. The mirrors were no longer just windows, they were doors. The crossover began suddenly. No longer limited to single swaps, the reflector poured through every reflective surface. Shop windows, puddles, screens, everywhere perfect copies emerged. Panic erupted as originals, now called orphans, were hunted in the open. The reflector was stronger, faster, united by a hive mind. They replaced humans seamlessly. The originals dissolved, leaving no trace. The world looked unchanged, but its people were wrong. Survivors fought back, but how do you fight your own face? The reflector mimicked emotions, sowing mistrust among the last humans. Paranoia became their greatest weapon. Groups hiding together turned on each other, suspecting replacements. The world was lost not by force but by perfect imitation. Humanity's greatest fear was now itself. In the ruins, a new kind of human emerged, the unseen. Survivors avoided all reflections, living in shadows, faces covered, eyes down. They smashed mirrors, painted windows, wore dull clothes, and hid in forgotten places. Their world was matte, silent and safe. The reflector, now dominant, maintained society with cold efficiency, but their world was hollow, no art, no laughter, only imitation. The unseen learned to spot the subtle signs of a reflector too steady gaze, perfect calm. They used this knowledge to evade patrols, holding on to hope in a world of cold reflections. The reflector knew the unseen remained, a reminder their victory was incomplete. The unseen were few, scattered but still human. They clung to hope, a fragile light in a world of perfect copies. The fight was not over, even as the world changed beyond recognition. Humanity survived in the shadows, refusing to be erased. Deep underground, Ilara, an unseen astronomer, made a discovery. Through a reflectionless telescope, she saw a vast approaching sphere, a cosmic mirror. The reflector were not born of Earth's mirrors, but were Earth's reflection, cast across the cosmos. The uncoupling was their severance, the crossover their arrival. The sphere was their home, coming to overwrite Earth completely. The invasion was not over, the main force was only now arriving. The unseen realized their struggle was against a cosmic principle, not just their doubles. In a candle-lit room, a child named Lyra was born, never having seen her own face. She found a shard of glass, looked in, and saw nothing, no reflection. For a child born after the change, the mirrors were empty. She was something new, a blank slate. In her, the future was unwritten, a question for both worlds. The war of reflections had ended, but something else was beginning. In the emptiness of the glass, hope and fear mingled for what might come next.